Alright, I am currently on this tier maker here, and they have the list of the Star Trek The Next Generation episodes from all seasons 1 through 7 of The Next Generation. And I'm going to be doing a tier list video because I recently had finished watching uh, Star Trek The Next Generation, and I loved the show. I recommend it. This video is going to contain a lot of spoilers as I do the ranking, and it's just my opinion, so take that into consideration. But yeah, let's get right into it. Encounter at Farpoint, the first video. One. I liked it. It's a good start to the series, so I'm going to be putting that right up here. Yeah, Encounter at Farpoint's a good start. I really liked where that one went. It was very enjoyable. I really thought that was pretty good. The Naked Now is the next one I'm on to. And in my opinion, The Naked Now is a bit cheesy. I put it on C ranking. I don't think it's a terrible one, but I think that the way that they treat the female characters in this episode, like they make them extra, horny, which is a bit much. And then they're all kind of, trying to chase all the cast, well, all the males around, and I thought that was a bit much, personally. Next one. Code Code of Honor. This one, I think, was had something to do with like a fight, and I didn't really think it was really memorable. Code of Honor. I thought it was kind of bland, a bland one. I mean, it was entertaining. I don't think I'm probably gonna rank anything in the F category here. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll make an exception for one of them, but so far they're not really. None of them are that bad. Code of Honor was just kind of bland. Just a bland episode. I didn't really think much of it. The Last Outpost. Yeah, nothing stuck with me about this one here. When I saw it, I thought it was okay. Just okay. That's about it, you know? Yeah, the Last Outpost was a bit bland, in my opinion. Where No One Has Gone Before is... trying to record this video, and it's a process. It's a slow process, and there's a lot of episodes to go through. Like, holy cow level of episodes. Okay. Where No One Has Gone Before, I think I'll put it more under the Farpoint one because it kind of comes back later. Because it hints at Wesley, I believe, being very important, and that kind of is something that gets wrapped up by the end of the series. His importance and stuff. So I do think this is very important. This part here, this episode here, it's definitely recommend it, but I don't think it's as good as the starting point. So, yeah. Lonely Among Us. Oh, this one was interesting. That Lonely Among Us had Picard possessed, and I kind of liked where this episode goes. He was possessed by this creature, and then this creature takes him off the ship, and they had to try to get him back on the ship by trying to get his waves back, and yeah, he was possessed in this one. I thought that was interesting, an interesting concept for an episode, and very enjoyable. Here's one right here. This Justice one. I'd rank it at Encounter at Farpoint levels, where I think it's very good. I think it's very good. It talks about how they should honor another culture's wishes and whether they should respect that or not. kind of deal, because Wesley, he basically, nice way of saying it, fudged up and broke something he shouldn't have. And yeah. And it's just a question of whether he should be sentenced to death or not. And quite frankly, the answer is not, of course. No, he should not be. But this debate and this concept of whether they should honor the culture or just try to get in there and intervene, that's what I really liked about this episode. Okay, now we're on to the battle. It's bland. It's from what I remember, it's bland. I mean, it's okay, but not very memorable. Not very memorable for me. Hide and Q. Now, Q was introduced at Encounter at Farpoint. At Farpoint, he was kind of judging things. And I really like what Q does when he has his own episode, where they're more focused on Q. I think that's some solid episodes when Q's involved. And I think in this episode, Hide and Q, the lead character in it, one of the leads, what's his name? My mind is drawing a blank. Dang it. What is his name? Fudge. Dang it, I forgot his name. I've been watching the series for a while now, and I feel like I remember every character, and then when it comes time to make this video, I'm not remembering crap. Let's start again. Hide and Q. Solid episode when Q's involved, and he gives the option of making somebody else, another member of the team, a Q. And that's a very powerful thing. And he has to fight it, and it's Picard's number one. I'll come up with the name. I just forgot the name. I literally forgot the name. We got Beverly Crusher. We got what the hell? I'm drawing a blank. I don't know why, but anything with Q in it, very good, very solid. Haven. I think Haven was the first time the counselor's mother was introduced, and she's trying to push her ways on Picard, and quite frankly, it kind of comes off as annoying in my opinion. She's trying to be a little bit extra, a little bit much. The Big Goodbye. Ooh, I really like that one. I like crime noirs. I really like those kind of things, and they use the holodeck to deal with, I believe, solving some kind of case in, I think, the 1940s or 50s, using the holodeck. And I like whenever they use the holodeck for something. Datalore. I put this in the same one as Where No One Has Gone Before and Lonely Among Us, because this is going to be very relevant for later in the series. Data has a brother who was created, and I really think that I believe Lore is the brother's name. So you got Data and Lore, so that's probably why it's titled that. And I really think the brother is an interesting character. Not necessarily good in morals as Data is, but yeah. And I think the relevance of this episode is something to be mentioned. It's an interesting episode in itself. It's okay. Angel One. Ooh, okay. Basically, it's a culture of women that kind of rule, and men are kind of second class. And from what I see, it's just that's mainly the premise, and it's okay. Nothing really notable I get from this episode, to be honest. It's interesting, like all the other episodes pretty much are. But yeah. Okay, this next one I'd probably put in a similar category. It's not super notable. It's entertaining, but okay. 1100101. It's these creatures that have to use the starship to basically survive because they communicate kind of, I think, digitally, if anything, and with two people, with two creatures. They basically use each other to communicate. So like for example, the perception of some people have towards twins is one can finish the other one's sentence. Well, that's very definite in this series with these aliens because one will definitely finish the other one's sentence and so on, so that they can both complete the sentence. I thought it was okay. I thought it was an okay episode. I wouldn't rank it too high. Okay. Too short a season. Okay, this one was a fun one. Trying to think where I want to rank it. I'll probably rank it right around here. Now this one here has a older. He's an old guy, and he basically he's part of Starfleet, and he takes this medicine to make him younger, and it ends up killing him. But I found it cool to see his de-aging process. I thought the story was okay, but I liked the makeup effects in this, and I thought that was very notable. I think the B section is where I'm putting a lot of the notable stuff, and I thought the makeup effects of going from older to younger. I mean, it gets easier because, of course, the guy's in heavy prosthetics at first, and then lightening the prosthetics over time. But the way they did it, it felt like a good progression. So I thought that was pretty cool. When the bow breaks. Oh yes, this one. Um, Wesley's abducted, and so are a bunch of other kids off the starship, and they basically have to figure out how to get off of there. And basically, the planet has trouble having kids of their own, and I don't think it's very notable. It's a good episode, but there's not much I get from it other than just kind of like kids rebelling kind of thing. And it's a good episode. I think the categories I'm going through it is mostly just kind of bland episodes where nothing really sticks with me. C is kind of like something stick with me, but it's not necessarily the best part. And F is just like a garbage episode. That's where I'd rank it. And S is top tier kind of an episode. And A is, good. Really, really good in my opinion. Okay. Home soil. This is something that a creature that's been given life, and I think that the way it was given life was interesting, and the way they focus on it's interesting. I think I'll give it up in the C category. Coming of age. I'm trying to remember this one. Oh, I think Wesley's doing like some tests and stuff, and he's gotta basically just kind of try really hard to pass these tests. So yeah, nothing really stands out to me about this episode though. It's kind of bland. Heart of Glory. Worf is a Klingon, and he's got to deal with aspects of being a Klingon. And so there's episodes that kind of have a Klingon theme, and I'm pretty sure Heart of Glory is one of them. Any ones with the Klingons are a little bit more notable for some of the stuff they go over. Arsenal of Freedom has Picard and the medical person, Beverly Crusher, who's the mother of Wesley, who I already mentioned is the coming of age on the tier here. This episode, in my opinion, was okay, but I don't think it was really exceptional. I can't really say that there's much I got from it, honestly. Symbiosis. I'm trying to remember this one. See, like, if I can't really remember too well, it's kind of bland in my opinion. Ooh, Skin of Evil. Yes, I do remember this one. I'd probably rank this one a B. Mostly because there's some notable things that happen in Skin of Evil. The episode itself is okay, and if it wasn't for some of the stuff that happens in Skin of Evil, I probably wouldn't rank it too high. It does some notable things. It sucks a team member into the black pit that it has. It's a creature that's like this black liquid kind of thing. But it also kills off a central character named Lieutenant Yar. She was part of the first season, really. And she comes back in a few episodes past her death. I think she actually appeared in upwards of 5 episodes after she was killed off. So it isn't the last time you see her, really, but they killed her off. So that always kind of had a weight on the series after it happened. And that happened in, I believe, Skin of Evil, definitely. Because the black monster just saps her. Black creature there, and yeah. We'll always have Paris. Oh, yes, I like this one here. It's about time shift and interacting with themselves at different points because they're trying to basically adjust the time to the right time because the time's been shifted. And so there's different versions of the crew at different points. And I thought that was a fun episode. I just enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the effects, and I thought it was a fun watch. I'd recommend that. We'll always have Paris. That's a good watch. Conspiracy is one of those ones that I put in a B category because it's so weird. It's such a weird episode. And it's basically an infection happens. Some creature gets in members of Starfleet and takes over. And basically Picard and his number one, and they got to try to destroy this creature, and they do, and they really brutally kill an infected person, like brutally, like one of the most brutal kills on the show that I've seen. It happens in Conspiracy, and just for that, I gotta say, I put it up on B tier, just for that, honestly. The Neutral Zone. Oh yeah, this one was about people that were frozen, I believe in like the 21st century or something like that, and it's kind of bland. It's a bland episode. It's basically them trying to deal with the fact that they're in the future, and I don't know if really much gets accomplished, in my opinion, for the characters. I do find them interesting, but I didn't really think that they were, that much of a interesting. I don't think the characters were given enough time to have some interesting epiphanies or anything like that. I feel like that was something that just didn't happen for that episode. Oh, the child. This one goes a little bit higher because the counselor gets pregnant by a weird creature that kind of goes intersystem, then gets created, and then ages quickly. I thought that was an okay episode, and I'd rank it a little bit higher, but I don't necessarily think it was amazing. But it did leave me with more than the other episode I mentioned, where silence is least. I gotta say, this episode I'd rank a little in the D category here. It doesn't really stick with me that much. Ooh, Elementary, My Dear Data. That one I rank at A point here. I really like the detective stuff. When they do that kind of stuff on the show, that's very entertaining. Very fun. Really good watch. And it's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, basically, episode. A Sherlock Holmes kind of themed episode. And they use the hologram space to do stuff, which is pretty awesome. I gotta say, that's pretty dope. The Courageous guy, Quicona. It was an okay episode. I believe basically he was some suave guy that comes on the Enterprise, and he basically was keeping some secret, and when it's revealed, it's like, oh, okay. It was bland. Loud as a Whisper. So there's this guy, and he communicates with these people. He communicates with these with 3 people, and they assist him with the way he communicates. And I thought that was an okay episode. And unfortunately, his team gets killed off, so they have to adjust to that. I think I'll rank it a little bit higher because of the symbolism and the meaning behind that, and connecting with somebody. I think that there's a little bit more meaning behind it. The Shilazoid Man. Data is like possessed by a person who Data is basically possessed by some inventor. And yeah, he kind of comes off as a douche in this episode a bit. But my question is, does it stick with me that much? No, not really. It doesn't really stick with me that much. Unnatural selection. There's a thing that ages people considerably. It's kind of like a disease kind of thing going around. And I thought that that premise can go a little bit higher, because seeing crew members age and then the way they fixed it, I thought it was a more notable episode, but not necessarily something I'd rank really high. In Matter of Honor, I like the Klingon stuff. So I'll rank it up here. I like the Klingon stuff. Oh, The Measure of a Man. That's one of the gems of the series. That one, like, if you haven't even seen the series, it's one of those ones that you got to put up there in the higher levels of recommendation, because Picard is trying to protect Data and classify him under the category of human, and it's a big debate because he's robot. What makes Data human? Well, this episode goes over that, and it's a very good episode. I love that episode. The Dolphin. You know what? I haven't ranked the Wesley episodes probably the best so far, but I did like the Dolphin a lot. I'm going to put that in B category. It's an interesting thing where he falls in love with this girl who's also, she can turn into anything. Basically, the original creature that she is not necessarily that attractive, but when she comes in human form, she's very attractive, and Wesley crushes on her, and when he finds out what she really looks like, it's like, oh shit. But they get along at the very end, so that's what That's what I like this episode. The Dolphin. That's a good episode. This is a solid episode. Contagion. Doesn't really stick with me that much. No, not really. I think it's some kind of deal where Data's got to protect the crew or something like that. I can't really remember a lot about that. The Royale. Ooh, yes. This one is along the higher land because I like the premise. They basically, I believe it's Data, Geordi, and Number One. They get stuck in this book that's on this planet, but these aliens, they created this place that's based on a book, and it's kind of torture, but they've got to basically follow what happens in the book to get them out of it. And I thought it was an interesting premise, and seeing what happened to the prior person who had gone through it, and seeing that just is like, oh shit. Time Squared. I like episodes that deal with time mysteries, so I'll probably rank this a little higher. I like that kind of thing. There's a mystery with the concept of time, because when they explore that on Star Trek, it's very enjoyable. The Icarus Factor is basically a father and son story, so I mean it's okay, but no, I'm not giving it an F. It's okay. It's like a D. O tier. Doesn't really stick with me that much. It was an okay episode. And Pen Pals was very good too. It had Data and this girl from another planet, and they'd been communicating, and he helped save her in some form, as I remember, but it didn't really stick with me that much. Q introduces the starship to the Borg, and it kind of messes with them, and I think Q Who is a interesting episode. Samaritan Snare. It was pretty bland. It was like Geordi being used by this ship of clever, that kind of played dumb characters. And yeah, basically Geordi's being used in this episode, and he's got to use his wit to get out. Up the Long Ladder. It was an okay episode. Had a bit to do with different planet kind of being set further back in its way of doing things, and the Enterprise helping them relocate. It didn't really stick with me that much. Manhunt. I think I'll rank it the same as Haven because it's basically a similar construct where the counselor's mom is after Picard, and I feel like ever since she entered the show and stuff, that's been kind of the theme of her just trying to chase down a man, basically. It's been a lot of the theme of it. The Emissary is a okay episode. Kind of a romance between Worf and this other Klingon, part human woman. And I think it's okay. I'll rank it a little bit higher. I thought it was enjoyable. Peak Performance, pretty bland. It's pretty much like war games that they're playing. It's okay. Shades of Grey didn't really stick with me that much, so I can't really say much about it. Evolution was okay as well, but it's nothing amazing. Because the episodes that stick with me, I'll rank higher. The Ensigns of Command. Oh, this one's where Data is on a planet and he has to convince these people to get off the planet. And I think that ranks a bit higher because of the whole process of him having to do that. It was an interesting plot. I like the survivors here a lot. I'll rank the survivors under here because as far as premise goes, it's these people who somehow survived an incident that happened, and the crew from the Enterprise are investigating this. And the reveal is what really kind of sealed it for me. It's just basically there's this guy who basically he created what's going on within the planet, so he can kind of reiterate life with his ability. And it was really him as the main survivor, but you get the false impression that it's him and his wife. But unfortunately, it's not really that way. She's kind of gone already. But he has an ability to kind of bring back things, and I'd recommend The Survivors as an interesting watch. It was a fun watch. Who watches The Watchers? Okay, this one here I'll rank under similar guidelines because it's basically about the whole premise that Star Trek has of non-interference. And, well, there's some interference. And I found that this episode was a fun watch. And I think in this episode it was Picard. He's treated like a god for a while in the episode, and that gets kind of crazy to watch because he helps save a member of the planet who doesn't understand Starfleet kind of stuff, like traveling the planet on the Enterprise. That's just whoa to these people, blows their minds. The Boneling kid has to deal with the death of his mother, and quite frankly, that is, I'll put that in C. It's an interesting premise, and the way it's done is okay. Basically, this boy sees a image of his mother, but it's not his mother. It's this planet's apology for killing off his mother, and the boy being alone, and the way they try to deal with that is by trying to recreate everything the boy liked and cared for, and trying to make that, But the boy has to face that living in the past is not something he can do. He's got to move forward, and he's got to deal with the fact that he's lost somebody very special to him. So that sticks with me a bit. But I don't know if the episode was that amazing. I think it was good. C's good. But I don't know if I'd rank it as high as some of these ones up here. Booby Trap. That was a fun one. Geordi LaForge. He does this conversation with a woman who, put that here, who's like a hologram representation of somebody, and they have a flirtation, and they save the ship from a trap, a bad thing that's going to happen, and he kind of falls in love with a hologram woman, and that's going to be something of reference later. So I want to bring that up, is that there's another part to this episode here, and I thought it was okay. The Enemy. Geordi, he's on a planet with the Enemy, and they have to get along so that they can both survive. I think I'll put that in the same category as Booby Trap. It's a very entertaining episode. Not much sticks with me about it, but it was good. The Price. I don't think The Price really stuck with me as far as an episode goes. I can't even remember that one. What else? The Vengeance Factor. A bland kind of revenge story where this woman is trying to take out somebody, and we learn that later in the episode. It was okay. It was an okay episode. The Defector. Another bland episode that I thought it was okay. It was an okay episode. The Hunted is like a skilled it's about a skilled guy who basically is able to take down a lot of the members of the crew, and they learn a bit about him, and I think they realize that he's an okay guy, and that they want to support him in some kind of way. So I mean, he starts off coming off as a bad guy, but he ends up kind of coming off as a guy with a past that, is understandable. And he's a likable guy in this episode, so it's an okay episode, but it didn't really stick with me. The High Ground. Ooh, High Ground. It's about morality. It's a morality story about Beverly Crusher. She has to deal with these terrorists who cross these lines of hurting others, and the morality statement of it all, it sticks with you a little bit more. That's why I rank it in C. It sticks with me. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good. I rank it up here. It's pretty good. Deja Q. Okay, like I said, anything with Q is some of the best I've seen in Star Trek. So pretty high up there when he comes into the story. I'm trying to remember what Deja Q was. Oh, Q can't remember, I guess, who he was. I think it was just him trying to remember himself. It was an entertaining episode. Pretty entertaining. A matter of perspective, I'd rank a bit higher, right up here in the category of B, because it goes through several different viewpoints of an incident that happened. And Picard's number one is charged with something, and they're trying to figure out, did he really do it or did he not? And I think by the end and stuff, it's shown that he did not, and whose fault it really was. But it was an interesting thing. It was an interesting way they put that all together. It was very good. Very good episode. A matter of perspective, I'd recommend it. Another recommended one is Yesterday's Enterprise. I already mentioned that Lieutenant Yar, she was a important character in the first season, and she gets killed off in Skin of Evil. Well, she learned what happened to her in Skin of Evil, basically, and she makes a decision in Yesterday's Enterprise when time is set backwards, and she gets kind of a chance to choose what she wants to go on to. And she chooses to go off in this other ship because she doesn't really have a future on the present Enterprise. And I thought that was it. It was a solid episode. It was a good episode. I rank it up in the B category. I really liked The Offspring too. Data creates his own daughter, and it's tragic what happens to her at the end. She is defective and ends up having to be shut off. But, the feelings I got from this episode was pretty strong. I really liked what The Offspring brought. The Sins of the Father. It's an okay episode. It's kind of a Klingon kind of matter. And I like those episodes, but this episode, in my opinion, was okay. It was just okay. Allegiance. I think I'll rank that a little bit higher. But, basically Picard is taken by these people that put him in a space with other creatures that they kind of got caught in the space from different planets. And it's like a test. And I guess in a way Picard passes. And he catches the people that did that trapped him, and then he makes them feel like crap, by trapping them briefly, and it kind of gets his revenge in that way. And I thought that was an interesting episode. Captain's Holiday. Okay, this was a nice adventure story. and there's a lot to it. It was a fun episode. Very fun episode to watch. Tin Man didn't really stick with me. It was an okay episode, but it didn't really stick with me. Hollow Pursuits. There's a character who he's kind of a bumbling character. He's not very popular on the Enterprise, or at least not treated like it. And you feel for him. And this episode really makes you feel for him. I'll rank it a bit higher because it was an interesting episode. It was fun. It was a fun episode. The Most Toys. The Most Toys. Ooh, that's a good one. The Most Toys. Let me see here. That one was about data being collected and treated like a prop in a collection, and he basically fight his way out, and I don't know why I just ended up accidentally shoving it somewhere, didn't I? Yeah, where did I end up shoving that by accident? If I find it here. Trying to figure out where the heck Oh, Most Toys. I accidentally got shoved off at C. I think I'll put this actually up in B category because I thought that was a fun episode to watch. Sarek is Spock's father, and I think this has a bit to do with Picard dealing with Sarek's emotions, trying to deal with that aspect, and I thought that was an okay episode. Menage at Troy. I thought that was an okay episode, but didn't really stick with me. Transfigurations had a lot to do with healing. There's a character that had the ability to heal, and ended up actually saving Worf in the episode. And I thought it was an okay episode. At the end, he evolves like big time. That was an okay episode, very okay. I'd have to rank this one the best of both worlds, where Picard becomes a Borg. That's high level stuff right there. That's a high level episode because it was like a two-parter, and the Borgs turned Picard into one of them, and how they get him back, and that's one of the most recommended ones of the series that I could recommend myself personally. You know, family. Picard has to deal with his brother and his family and getting along, and I want to say it was like in the D category, but I think it was in the B category. No, not B. B category. You know, it was a very family-based episode, and it was different. You know, and I like the different. You know how different this episode felt from other episodes. You know, it felt like it was more maybe down to earth, more down to earth of an episode. I like that. Brothers, Data and Lore meet the father that created them, and that was a fun episode. It was a fun episode. You know, Suddenly Human. This boy that was raised. By a different culture and stuff is found on a ship, and they got to decide whether to return him to his family, his genetic family, or the ones that raised him. And I gotta say, this episode stuck with me because of the ending. They chose to not have him interact with his birth family in the very end. That's what I remember about this episode. And it kind of made me go, oh, I thought they'd go the other way with it. And then, you know, have him adapt to that. But instead, it just kind of went the other direction with it. I'm like, okay. Remember Me. I think this had a lot to do with Counselor Troy. Getting some images of things. Something like that. Legacy had a bit to do with Lieutenant Yar as a reference. It was her sister storyline, and I thought it was okay. Kind of bland. Reunion. I'm trying to think what Reunion was all about. Since it doesn't really stick with me that much, I don't think I'll really make a big point of it. Future Imperfect. I think this episode I rank a little bit higher because I like stuff that kind of explores the future in an episode. I thought that was entertaining. The Final Mission here. This one I'd rank in the B category because it's a nice grounded story with Wesley and Picard and some other guy who was part of it. And they're just dealing with trying to, how do I phrase it? Well, I think it's like a crash landing story where they crash somewhere and then they're just trying to survive. And at the very end, Wesley helps Picard, and they both get out of there. Okay. And I think a lot of this episode, just the way it was shot, is interesting. It was an interesting episode. I thought it was a fun episode. The Loss. Yeah, that didn't stick with me too much. I can't really remember much about that episode. Data's Day. It's about a wedding. It's the wedding episode of the show, which is pretty cool. Between the transport engineer and this woman who does a lot of, I think, herbology, something like that, with plants. That was an okay episode. The Wounded. Didn't stick with me that much. Devil's Due. That one stuck with me more. This woman pretends to be this devil of this culture, and she starts. Actually, I'd probably rank it a bit higher. Maybe Fairpoint level. Because of all the tricks she's doing, that you almost believe that she has some authority that she doesn't have. And when it's finally revealed all the tricks that she's pulling and the crap that she's pulling, I like that twist. Clues. You know, I like it where they gotta play detective. So I'll put that up in B category. Clues was I believe, an interesting one, from what I remember. First Contact. That one is a little bit. I put it in C category because there's basically number one who gosh darn it, I don't know why I forgot his name. It was on the tip of my tongue. Picard's number one who assists. He goes down this planet and kind of pretends to be one of them because they're doing some scouting, figuring out they're ready for first contact. And I thought the episode was entertaining, but the scene that stuck with me, that made me rank it higher than D in general, is the fact that one of them, she was like, I think maybe a nurse or something. She looks at number one, and she knows that he's an alien, and she's just like, mate with me now. Let's get it on. Please, do me this favor. And I'm just thinking to myself, what? I gotta laugh out of that scene, and that kind of stuck with me, and that's why I rank it a little bit higher than D. I think without that scene there, that got that chuckle out of me. I don't know if I'd rank it as C, necessarily. I probably might have ranked it at D. Galaxy's Child. Okay. didn't really stick with me. Galaxy Child. Night Terrors. I like the kind of horror theme in some episodes. I rank that C. Identity Crisis. Dealing with that. Oh yes, Geordi is infected, and he's like made into like a creature, and he's got to come back. They got to get him to come back and be human. I rank that a little bit higher because I like the transformation process they give Geordi. It's like, what the fudge? Didn't agree. They made a character who's kind of a bumbling character, smarter, like a genius. And it was an interesting episode to see what direction he went with it. Cupid. Ooh, I really like this one, Cupid. Any Q episodes that rank pretty high. Also, I like Robin Hood. I like the story of Robin Hood. I've seen the Mel Brooks film. Was it Robin Hood Men in Tights? I thought that was enjoyable. And I always liked I think it came out in like 1930s, Robin Hood, that film, too. I always liked that. So I really liked the story of Robin Hood and Cupid. They explore that a bit. So Star Trek and Robin Hood, I'm like, hell yes, S tier. I recommend Cupid. Let's see here. Drumhead. It's kind of like the Red Scare. I believe that this one's kind of it's basically accusing people of things, dealing with that. And I think it was an enjoyable episode. Actually, for a low scale episode, it was, it got its message across pretty good. The Drumhead's actually really good. I like that one. Half a Life deals with a guy who, because of his culture, he has to die a certain time when it's just part of his society, and it's just how things are. But at the same time, the morality of it, I think I'll rank it up in the B category because of the meaning behind it and the point shared and the decision that's made at the end, And believe me, it's not the answer that you think that they might go with it. There's a twist, in my opinion, where they end up going with it. And it kind of makes me feel like, did they choose the right thing in the end? And that's one thing Star Trek does really good, is it makes you question things. The Host. Ooh, The Host was interesting. Basically, this creature... it's more of a C episode, I think. So Beverly falls in love with this person and thinks that she's, with this guy and his personality and everything. But apparently what she's really in love with is the thing inside of him that gives him the personality. But at the same time, this creature has to keep changing out hosts, and at the very end, it gets into a body that's not really even something that Beverly's like, I don't think I can work with this. So in the end, I think what she really liked was both the personality and the look of the individual. Now I figured out what number one's name was, Riker. And Riker actually becomes the host in this episode for a brief while. And so she kind of has to treat Riker like her love interest, which is kind of weird because, it's Riker. And to her, she's like, she sees Riker more like a brother than a love interest. So that was an interesting premise in the host. That was part of it. So now I'll address as Riker. So instead of number one. Okay. The Mind's Eye. Bland episode. It was okay. Data exploring relationships in the theory. He's trying to explore romance, and I thought that was a fun episode. Redemption. I thought that was just okay. Darmok is one of those episodes that I gotta put a little bit higher, A category, because it's about understanding how to communicate amongst two people who speak very different languages and how they get across to each other. Picard and Darmok must get along, kind of find a way to understand each other. In the end, I think they did pretty good. Ensign Ro's introduction in the show. I liked her character, but I don't think her introduction was anything amazing. Silicon Avatar. I don't know if this episode's stuck with me that much, honestly. I think Disaster was about three of the crew, Counselor Troy, the transporter guy, and Ensign Ro being possessed. I thought that was an okay episode. I think that's what the Disaster one was about. The game, I gotta tell you, I'd rank it higher, but mostly under the category because the game graphics are so cheesy, and I'd put it under the category B because it's a watch because it's humorous, and I don't know if it's intentionally humorous. It just comes across that way. It comes across more humorous than maybe it should. You know, I think I was laughing at parts in the game storyline that I feel like, should I have been laughing at this part? You know, but I definitely do put the game in B category because it's a watch, but it's for probably different reasons than the show creators intended. You know, I think that they're trying to show addiction to a game and stuff in a certain levity, but the way they did it came out more like a comedy and silly. But I did like the episode a lot. So Unification, having Spock in Star Trek Next Generation, that was pretty good. Oh, talking about Encounter at Farpoint, I think in Encounter at Farpoint, another famous character made an appearance just for a brief moment. What was his name? What? McCoy. McCoy was in I think in Encounter at Farpoint later in the episode, maybe, or something. He was just introduced as an old scientist, no, old doctor kind of guy, and he's like 100 and something. And so they did introduce him in there for a moment. He had a very short part in the episode. I think he was only on screen for like 2 or 3 minutes in that one episode that he was in. I think it was Encounter at Farpoint that he was in that episode. The Spock episode, Unification, I think had a good premise in there, and having Spock in an episode of Star Trek Next Generation was pretty cool. I like that. A Matter of Time. I didn't think much of it. It's more about this guy who's supposed to be from the future, and he's supposed to encounter a moment on the Enterprise and stuff. But then you find out that he's not who he says he is. I thought the episode was kind of bland. It didn't really stick with me that much. New Ground. New Ground. I don't think that stuck with me too much either. Hero Worship. I thought that this one I'd rank a little bit higher in the C category because it's about a boy who is trying to deal with his own grief over things, and he starts acting like Data for a little while, and I thought that was humorous and interesting. And it's about him learning to be human again, really. Violations. Um, Nothing really amazing about this one, you know. Just a guy being a bad guy. The Masterpiece Society. It's a society of people that are genetically designed to be a certain way, and the crew interferes, and by them interfering, they basically uh, screw themselves over on that one, and they kind of change the society, but they also help the society in a way too. So it's an episode that leaves you with some thoughts, but yeah, I'm ranking it in C because, in my opinion, it doesn't stick with me as much as B, A, or S category. Conundrum. Yeah, I feel like this was a typical like bad guy episode because I think there was a guy who was running the show and he was just, I think it was this guy in the corner here, and he was like the bad guy, and it was just like, oh, okay. Power play. Didn't really stick with me. Didn't really stick with me too much. That one there. Oh, the ethics one. This one's a good one. I rank this one a little bit higher in the C category, where Worf is injured really bad, and it's the question of whether he should end it all or continue. And that brings up quite a few points in the because of his culture and stuff being a Klingon, what direction he goes in. So I think exploring ethics in this episode here was interesting enough to be above D. The Outcast here stuck with me a little bit more. I'll put this one in the B category because the character in this one is kind of an androgynous character, and this person this individual falls in love with Riker, and it's against the society that the individual lives in, and it's kind of a punishment. Is trying to blend in. You get a procedure done, and then you get blended into the society, and it's just it's a moral quandary of, can you just let something be? If it's out of the normal, I'd recommend The Outcast as a watch, definitely. Cause and effect. Okay. I think this one had something to do with the ship blowing up. I think this was the one. And they're just trying to understand that. So I think this is the one where the ship blows up, and they're all trying to figuring it out gradually. I think that was cause and effect. I think so. And I like that one. The First Duty. This one has Wesley dealing with the morals of an incident that happened, and whether to protect the team that he has over at the academy that he's been studying at, or or himself, or it's a moral thing, definitely, and he definitely gets ranked lower, I think, as a crew member after this episode because he, him and his team were responsible for an incident that happened, and so got some harsh flack for that in the episode, and it kind of affects where he kind of stands a bit for a while on the Enterprise because of, I think, what happened in the first duty in that episode. But I did think it was an entertaining enough episode. Cost of living. Didn't really stick with me that much. Ooh, The Perfect Mate. That one stuck with me a bit. I'll put that in B, because this woman can pretty much adapt herself to any guy that she comes in contact with. And, I mean, she was able to woo over Picard pretty good in this episode. I found that pretty interesting. And who she ends up, connecting with at the very end. Yeah, I really like this episode, Perfect Mate. That was really good. The Imaginary Friend one. I'll put that over in C category because this imaginary friend was basically the imaginary friend wasn't that amazing of a character, but the premise was kind of interesting of an outside space observer coming in as an imaginary friend and then interfering with things. I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, what else? I, Borg. Okay. I, Borg, I rank up higher, like S tier, because I really like the premise of not all the Borg are bad. Like you get to humanize the Borg a bit, and I really like that. I really thought that was pretty awesome to see, is seeing the Borg in a different light, and then them helping this Borg kind of changes the Borg in the series. I mean, the movies I've noticed as I've been watching them, and I'll do a different video on that. They go in a different direction with the Borg, but in the TV show, this episode, I, Borg, really represents change with Borg in general. Kind of humanizes the Borg a little bit. I would definitely recommend that one. And Next Phase. Ensign Ro and Geordi LaForge go through this phaser malfunction, and they end up in a scenario that makes them seem almost like ghosts. But luckily, they're able to get rematerialized in some form and be able to work with that. Ooh, The Inner Light. So Picard, this is an S tier right here. Picard goes through like 15 minutes in his head. He's knocked out by this entity out in space. This kind of I think it's like a box of some kind of creature. It's not really a creature. It's like a box that has all this information, and it hits him in the head. And it's like he lives a whole lifetime within 15 minutes. In his head, it's a lifetime, but on the ship, it's like 15 minutes, and it explores a whole different culture of people, a whole different race of people, and he gets to kind of live their life for a little while. Well, lifetime for him. And he actually picks up an instrument from this. He actually gains the ability with an instrument, and I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was cool the way it was done, and I definitely recommend this episode. Definitely. Time's Arrow. Data sent back to the past, and I'll rank that up in C category. It was a fun episode. Data sent back to the past, and he's got to get his way back to the present. Realm of Fear. This one's kind of about Paranoia, um, the bumbling member of the Starfleet team, and he makes an appearance in a few episodes of the series. And he's dealing with a paranoia about transportation because he keeps seeing this creature, and whenever he transports, and he's really worried. And in the end, he conquers his fear, and I thought it was a solid episode. It was enjoyable. Man of the People. This one, ooh, this one I give on the B level because it turns Counselor. There's this guy. He gets on the ship and he turns Counselor Troy into an old woman who's obsessed with him, and he basically uses women to deal with himself. And the way he uses them is like using their youth. He just takes it. And in the end, they get the revenge on him, and he gets old. He turns super old because that's what he was the whole time. He's just eating off other people's youth so he can do what he wants and justify it to himself, which is terrible. And I thought the way the episode dealt with his punishment and helping Counselor Troy, I thought it was a fun episode, and I thought it was really enjoyable. Relics. Ooh, yes, I rank this one pretty high too. Yeah. I like Star Trek the original series, and this is a good nod back, and I like seeing Scotty on Star Trek Next Generation. What he did in this episode. It was very enjoyable. And it's also interesting seeing him at not as old of an age as McCoy, and like it feels like he just got out of one of the Star Trek movies or something, and he's younger, because he was stuck in a transporter for like quite a long time, and he is, he's not like super old Scotty, he's Scotty. I really enjoyed the Relics episode. I'm just going to be honest with you. It references the original Star Trek and explores how Scotty deals with being in the Next Generation timeline. I think that's simplifying it enough. Alright. We're getting there, guys. Okay. Schisms. Okay, this one was about the paranoia of an abduction that was happening to the crew. And I thought the paranoia and stuff happening in this episode was interesting. It's weird. True Q. I rank this one in B. I like a lot that. I like when Q shows up in an episode. He makes it interesting. But I don't think I'd rank it as high as his other appearances because it's not necessarily about him. It's about this one-off character. And but he does good in this episode, so I put it in a B category. Rascals. Okay, I'm gonna put this one in category of B2 because explores a younger Picard, and due to a transporter error, I believe, of some kind. Picard has turned younger. Actually, no. They're on a ship. Picard was on a ship with Ensign Ro and Whoopi Goldberg's character. She got the hat, and something happens, and they get turned younger. And the way all the characters explore being young, and the way they deal with that, it made an interesting episode. I put that in B category. I liked it. I personally liked it. Ooh, A Fistful of Datas. It's a Western episode, and Data gets a chance to kind of play a villain character in the hologram space. So I put this in the B category because I enjoy Western stuff. Quality of life. Data questions species. that was recently created, like a robot species, and they have a kind of a self-preservation kind of set in, and Data wants to protect them, and I like how this episode explores that. Chain of Command is a solid episode. Very good acting by the guy who plays Picard, Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart. Yeah, very great acting. Yeah, Chain of Command goes higher because he's being tortured, and the level of emotion that he shows in this one, very good. Ship in a Bottle, I'll have to rank around the same category as. Where's another one? There's some other ones. Whenever they. Okay. A. It's an A category because it's a good continuation of Elementary, My Dear Data. And it kind of continues on from that point and has to deal with a hologram character wanting to be free from the hologram space and live his own life. And the question is, does he really get that? Not necessarily. No, but it's a good episode. Aquiel, I found to be just a bland episode. Geordi likes this character, and I think I'll rank it up a little bit higher because of the twist about, about things. Okay, I'll explain Aquiel. There's this woman. Geordi watches her log, the logs, Star Trek logs that they have, and he feels like a connection with her, but they figure that she's dead. Turns out she's alive, and the question is she her or is she some creature? And what turns out to be some menacing creature is her dog. Isn't really her dog. Like, it's brought it back on the ship. It's this creature that pretended to be her dog. So there's that. It was an okay episode. Face of the Enemy. The counselor has to pretend to be the enemy and kind of go along with it for a mission, and that was okay. Tapestry. I like Q episodes. I'll put it over in B. Picard is dealing with technically close to death, and Q gives him a chance to explore whether he could have gone a different path, or if he's just best being where he is, that kind of thing. I thought that was good. I really like Birthright. That deals with Worf coming down to this kind of like a prison where other Klingons don't know the Klingon ways, and he trains them and tries to get them to understand their culture. And by them understanding their culture, they want to leave the kind of prison kind of environment that they're in. And Birthright is a really good watch. I do recommend that. Starship Mine. Yeah, this kind of feels like a I'll put this in C. This kind of feels like a kind of a Die Hard kind of a premise, where Picard is trying to save the ship independently and setting things up to, get people, and get the bad guys. And there's I think a scene in this episode that came off like a moment from Die Hard. So Starship Mine is like Star Trek's Die Hard episode. And it's good. It's good. But nothing truly like amazing that I rank it any higher than C. At least to me. Lessons. Okay, this one's a nice one. Picard falls in love with this woman. And yeah, it's a nice love story episode. The Chase. Didn't really stick with me that much. Can't really remember much about it. Frame of Mind. Ooh, this one's interesting. So Riker's in a play, and he gets in a weird mental state where it feels like he is messed up, like really messed up, and also feels like he's part of a play. So it kind of explores two different things. Like, is he insane or is he not insane? And I like that. I like that, the way they played with that. Suspicions. Um, I'm trying to think which episode this one is. I'm trying to remember if this is the... No, that's not the one I thought it was. This one didn't really stick with me then. I don't really recall much about it. Rifle Air was okay. It's basically about there was this Klingon legend who was kind of brought back due to cloning, and the debate is, well, since he's not like the original, and he's trying to come off as the original, well, what do we do with him? And what they decided to do is have him still help out the Klingons and represent some form of guidance with the Klingons. So Rifle Air is an okay episode. Second Chances 2 is just okay. Not amazing. It's basically about Riker having a clone and running with that premise. Timescape. Oh, I love Timescape. The way they went with that. I'll put that down in A category. That was a fun episode where they tried to solve what happened on the ship, and it feels like time is kind of paused and fast forwarded and just maybe in some parts rewound. So it's a nice episode, nice exploration episode. Descent. So in this episode, Data kind of becomes a bad guy for a little bit. Liaisons didn't really stick with me that much. Nothing really that amazing about it. Nor did Interface. I thought Interface was okay. I'll rank it in the C category because I liked... Oh, where did I... Oh, Interface goes right here. Right here and C. No, okay, and I'm on the wrong one. What in the world? Interface, right here. Because I like how Geordi's trying to save his mom. I thought that was a cool premise. But it didn't really stick with me that much, I admit. Gambit was kind of a... Picard was like, I believe, abducted, and then he tries to deal with some shit kind of thing. Phantasms deals with like some dream that Data has. When I rank it, I don't really rank it too high, but it does have some cool scenes. Attached is kind of a grounded episode. I kind of rank it higher because Beverly and Picard kind of address how they feel about each other, and I think that's kind of a neat episode for them spending time with each other in an episode, those two. Dark Page deals with, I'll rank it as C here. Yeah, it deals with Counselor's mom, things that she's going through, I believe. Force of Nature is kind of a bland episode. I mean, these two characters, they transport above, they transport on the ship, and then they kind of take over. And they do it for a good reason, because warp drive is ruining their planet, and so there has to be something reached with. There's got to be something better reached, you know. A better kind of conclusion reached. Inheritance. I'll put that in the C category. Data is with his. Data's with his mom. Data gets to kind of interact with a woman who calls herself Data's mom because she helped apparently make Data, but unfortunately she's not really the real woman. She's a robot who was created by the same person that created Data, but she doesn't know she's a robot, and Data never tells her, and he treats her in the end like his own mom. So it was a nice episode. It was nice. It was an interesting episode. Parallels. Ooh, I really like Parallels. I gotta admit, I really did. I think I'll put it in the A category because I liked how things got really messed up for Worf, and he had to question his reality, and they explored that pretty good in this episode. Him trying to understand how to get back to his reality, and so many enterprises in the episode shown, and it was a fun episode. I like Parallels. The Pegasus. Kind of shows like some darker things that happened in the past for Riker. His past captain was not necessarily that great of a guy, and the Pegasus shows that. So, wow. Homeward was about saving a society. Worf has a stepbrother who wanted to save the society, so he transported them onto the Enterprise in a hologram room, and they have to adjust to that. So I thought it was a fun episode. And then they get sent to their new homeworld through help of the hologram room. It was a fun episode. Describing it, hopefully I didn't confuse you on that one. You know what? I think for me, out of all the rest of them, if I were to rank maybe the worst episode, I think I'd give it to Sub Rosa. I will put that in the F category. Why, you may be wondering? Because the premise of Sub Rosa is, it's a watch, you know, but in a more comedic way. The aspects of the premise didn't really make any sense, and Beverly's character falling in love with this Lamp character, and by the end of it, I'm just left going, wait, what? Like the whole episode leaves you going, wait, what? You know, of all the episodes I've seen. So I guess I give this one in the F tier category. But still doesn't mean that it's not worth a watch. I mean, all these episodes are really worth a watch, but as far as ranking goes, I think I give Sub Rosa, I think, the lowest. Lower Decks I'll put this in S tier, because it explores a whole different crew of the Enterprise, like their perspective, the Lower Deck people, and what they think of the main cast. And it just shows a different observation on an episode, and it was enjoyable and refreshing to see that in the series. In fact, that should be a series of its own that's live action. I've seen the cartoon one they got, and that's cool. but that should be like its own live action thing, if they haven't done that already. Thine Own Self. Okay, Data gets, for me it's a C category. Data is basically on this planet, and he forgot how he got there, and he's carrying something radioactive, and unfortunately he doesn't know what radioactive means until the very end, and he's able to fix it, but he kind of messes up the town he walks into. And yeah, it's an interesting episode, but yeah. Masks is a bland episode, in my opinion. I mean, it's cool how they changed the Enterprise into looking more, changing it around, adding more grass, more scenery like that. But Masks didn't feel like it really did much for me. I did like how Data did different voices, stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. Eye of the Beholder was pretty bland too. I mean, it dealt with the death of a crew member, but it wasn't really that much of an episode. Felt kind of bland. Genesis. Ooh, I love Genesis. I'll put that up in S tier because it's basically about crew members changing into creatures, and I thought this it turned like this Star Trek episode into like a horror movie, and I like horror movies, so seeing this episode was refreshing, and seeing Star Trek in the sense of a horror movie kind of way. It was a very fun episode. Journey's End. Yes. This one I had to rank pretty high because it's a payoff episode for Wesley's character. It references back to, let me see which episode it was. Where No One Has Gone Before, which was an earlier on episode. And it shows Wesley going on to something else, not Starfleet. He goes on to do something very different. And this episode really has him questioning the values of Starfleet, just in general. And I feel for him. Okay, now we're on to the last 5. So, for me, Firstborn, that was not bad. No, it wasn't F tier. Firstborn was okay. I thought Firstborn was a fun episode, but I didn't think it was that much. It didn't really stick with me that much. It was mostly about Worf's kid coming back in from the future to tell himself to do better. Just tell himself in the past as a kid to do better, kind of deal. And that was okay. Bloodlines was okay too, just okay. Turns out Picard had a kid. I think that's the main plot of it. Emergence is an A tier episode because it deals with the holodeck wanting to become more sentient. And I like where they go with that. I thought that was a fun premise. Preemptive Strike was a good way to send off Ensign Rowe's character, so I'll put it up on B. It was a fun episode. All Good Things, the last episode of the series, is S tier. It's one of the best episodes I've seen of the show. And it deals with Picard's past, present, and future. And also makes Worf and the counselor character. They're a couple by the end of the series. So, yeah. I like the characters and like where they went, and I liked what they did with the series. It was fun. So, yeah, that's my list for you. I hope you all enjoyed this video. and have a great day.